Okay, so in this training, I would like to show you how you should always think about your training, think about your workouts, how to structure it so you can get to your goals, move pain-free forever, be free, be confident, and move without fear, okay? And this is exactly how I've been working with you so far, whether it's your day 1 or day 36 or whatever. This is also how Movement Mastery Method is built. It's built on this system. This is how I've been training my whole life pretty much. And this is just these 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple things that just, I would call them foundation of a proper structure of a training. Okay, so let's get to it. First things first. Everyone is different. Everyone trains in a different way. Everyone has a different job, different routines, different things that you have to take care of, right? However, these key things, this whole method, this whole system on how to structure your training applies to anything, because the whole goal here isn't to focus on the reps, isn't to focus on the sets, time of rest in between your sets, or maybe key areas that you should focus on in terms of, like, you know, this muscle, that muscle, or this joint, right? It's more about how I would like you to approach your own training forever, right? As part of this program, outside of this program, pretty much anything. So there's 4 things that I always think about whenever scheduling programs for myself, for you, for someone else, whatever. First thing is your whole system. What does it mean? Your whole system is pretty much your whole body. Your head, your brain, your knees, your feet, your elbows, anything. Every single joint, every single muscle, every single fascia, bones, everything, right? So whenever you start to structure your own training, right? You're planning a week, 3 weeks, 4 months ahead of time, right? I want you to make sure that at the end of the day, you target the biggest muscle groups, meaning how I like to break it down is first, upper body. Second, lower body. And third would be your core. Now, remember that I am really simplifying these things because at the end of the day, like, it is actually that simple. But when you approach your own training, I want you to think about these 3 things. You have to move your upper body, you have to move your lower body, and you have to move your core, right? And to be honest with you, I just want to share just that with you. You know, I don't really want to go into too many details because it all depends on how you want to train, what your goals are, and what your priorities are as well. However, what we're thinking about here in this whole structure is how to be able to hit your goals, enjoy the process, and also live in a healthy body. So create a body that works for you forever, not just right now, right? Because you want to hit a really strong gym session, but what's going to happen when you're 70, 80, 100 years old, right? We want to think about these whole things. We want to think about longevity. So when you're thinking about training, think about what is good for my whole system. Am I targeting my upper body? Am I targeting my lower body? And am I targeting my core? Right? Once you have that foundation, then we can move into the second step, which is thinking a little bit more about, you know, the science behind it, the more sophisticated things, the fancy things like rotational movements, moving in different movement planes, you know, sagittal, lateral, diagonal, everything, right? You want to think about these dynamic myofascial slings that I covered in another training. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. And if you have, watch it again because it's really, really important. But what does it mean, right? So once we have that whole system in place, okay, we're targeting upper, lower, and core. Now we want to go into a bit more granular approach, right? So we're thinking about how can I make my body not just healthy as a whole, but a very functional machine, right? Because we as human beings, we are built to move, to rotate, to grab things off the floor, you know, to reach something from the top shelf, you know, to run, to hunt and everything, right? And obviously because of the digital world, we sit a lot, right? Like our lifestyles have really changed. And you know how I always say, you lose what you don't use. It does happen here with our bodies. That's where all the pains, all the stiffnesses and everything comes from, right? So the second thing that I want you to think about in your training, in why do I even do this? Why do I go to the gym and move my body? Is how can I make my body very functional and again, focus on that longevity aspect, right? So to do that, you have to make sure that your body doesn't just lift weight. You don't just focus on the upper, lower, and core, and that's it. But you also focus on the rotational movements, right? Being able to reach up, down, you know? Being able to unload a dishwasher without worrying about your back or anything, right? To do that, you also have to think about different movement planes because we don't move in this plane only, right? You can think about like lunges or squats or like the gym bro split. You know, usually the normal gym routines, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not really making us a functional human body. You want to be able to move everywhere. So what I want you to think about is how can I take as much space as possible? Don't just move up and down, up and down. Move up and down to the side, up and down and jump, back, front, whatever, right? So going back to this little diagram, make sure that you add certain rotations, right? You can think about your current program, like what you're doing right now. We have so many rotations. We have a lot of movement planes, right? We don't just move like this and that's it. But it's like, yeah, you're going to squat, you're going to rotate, you're going to go into diagonal lunge, you're going to do unilateral single leg hip thrust or deadlift, right? You see how we like incorporating these dynamic and functional movements, right? And let me just clear this up a little bit because I made so much mess. To do so, you will also start to think and realize that, oh, my body is actually organized in a very, very smart way, which we call the myofascial slings. Again, I spoke a little bit more in detail about it in another training, but you probably recognize this diagram, right? This is how our bodies are built, okay? And again, I'm not going to go into the anatomy behind it. You know, we're not going to be talking about like how anterior sling is built, that it's got, you know, external obliques, serratus, whatever. That's not really important. What I want you to remember from this is read as much as you can on this. Remember the muscles and everything. But for me, most important thing for you is to just remember that these things, these 4 slings exist in your body. Meaning, when you think about rotational movements, don't just rotate like this, right? Or like that, right? Engaging your lateral sling that we have here, okay? So any sort of like chops, peel-off presses or something, going to focus on this lateral sling, right? Because you can see these muscles in circles here, right? But once again, I want you to think about moving in different movement planes, rotating in different flows, right? Creating that functional body in not just one functional movement, right? So again, I don't want you to be like doing the chops all the time, but think about, oh, we have this sling, we have that sling and this sling. So here, I'm going to do side planks. Right? Here, I'm going to do single leg hip thrust, single leg deadlift, for example, to focus on deep extensors, right? The IT band, the muscle surrounding the calf here as well, right? So obviously, it would take me forever to explain every single detail of these slings for you, but I just want you to remember about these 4 things. And now, whenever you think about, oh, I'm going to add a rotational movement, or I'm going to add a different movement plane, make sure that you target these things. So maybe you do a side plank, maybe you do a single leg deadlift, and then you're going to add the up to down, chop, right? So again, we kind of moving from, okay, I'm just focusing on the upper body, lower body and core to, okay, I want to think about functionalities. I want to rotate. I want to be a bit more dynamic, to going even more granular. How can I make these dynamic functional movements the best for me? So then you think about the myofascial slings, okay? And this is pretty much everything that we're doing in this program as well. So you can take inspiration, from it, save certain things that you like, and just keep doing them. Keep doing things that work for you, because they work for your functionality and longevity, and they work for the whole system. All right? Next, now, I would say these 2 things here, right? So we have the whole system and the functional movements, the rotations and stuff, is very general, right? But now, what if I play golf and I don't really run, right? And what if you are a runner and you don't do handstands? And what if you do handstands but you don't run, right? So you see what I'm trying to explain here? Now we're going into a little bit of a different category. We're going into, what sport do I do? How do I like to train? How do I like to move? And for what reason? And what do I need to do to make sure that I'm healthy, right? So we have these 2 things. But I'm also performing well at the gym, when I run, when I compete, whatever it is, right? So having said that, let's take me as an example, right? I train calisthenics, which is really, really specific. It's mainly upper body, right? So what I need to remember is, definitely, if I want to compete, if I really want to be good at calisthenics, I have certain focus areas that I have to focus on. I have to focus on wrist mobility. I have to focus on my shoulder mobility and strength, right? I have to focus on my core stability, different things, balance, whatever, different things that are very specific to me, because I train what I train. When you play golf, this is going to be completely different for you, right? You are in that hinge position. You are rotating through the hip, swinging and everything, right? There's going to be something completely different to how I train. So, once again, you and I, even though we do completely different things, we have different jobs. Maybe you sit a little bit more, I sit a little bit less. I hate running, you love running, whatever. Both of us, we have to focus on the whole system. It doesn't matter what we do, upper, lower core. And we have to focus on the functionality, because we're thinking, when I'm 80, I want to move freely, right? However, the focus area is going to be the most specific and unique to your own body. So, if you make sure that you have the whole system, you have the functionality and the rotational thingies, now it's time to focus on the things that actually matter for you. Probably it won't matter for me that much, right? Or your wrist mobility will not matter to you that much as it does to me, because I spend a lot of time on my hands, right? But this is also a very important thing when you're structuring your training. You have to make sure that the training actually serves you, serves your sport, you do it for fun, whatever it is, right? So, third step is making sure that whenever you have, okay, I have to focus a little bit more on strengthening my rotation, right? I have to support my lower back. Oh, I'm overloading my shoulders and they hurt sometimes. I need to focus a little bit more on that, right? So you're kind of like narrowing everything down and making it very unique for you. And now, last but not least, I also put, cool downs and warm-ups and cool downs at the bottom, because I kind of don't consider, well, maybe that's a bad way of saying it, but I don't want you to think of a warm-up as like, oh yeah, warming up your body, and cool down, oh yeah, cooling down your body because you finish your training, because this is obvious, right? We warm up because the muscle are getting warmer, right? We oxygenating them a little bit better. The blood starts to flow a little bit faster, so all the nutrients are going, you know, into the muscle, into the body, into the brain and everything. Cooling down, you finish your training, maybe it's time to stretch a little bit more to, you know, circulate everything a little bit better. There's a lot of lactic acid circulating, for example, so you want to remove these bad things for your body a little bit faster. You're thinking about recovery, you know, but you see how everything that I have spoken about just now is around the physiology of the body, right? And this is just a fact. Like, this is how it works. You warm up to warm up your body, and you cool down to cool down your body. However, what we tend to forget about is doing the warm up, not to just warm up from the physiological point of view, but can you get into the right zone? Can you go into your training with the right mindset? Can you prep your body? Can you maybe picture certain exercises? Can you imagine you doing that already? How are you feeling? Kind of like reconnect with your body, okay? This is something that I always want you to include. Whatever you do, whether you have time or you don't, spend at least 1 minute on just like, okay, I am training, you know? Yes, warming up your muscle is really, really important, but so is just getting into that right mindset and right zone. Same with cool downs. Don't just cool down because like you want to stretch or something. Cool down because, okay, you've worked out, it was stressful on your body, your muscles are broken, now they have to recover and everything. I finished. Let me, you know, reduce my heart rate, slow down a little bit. So, you know, even like thank yourself that you did that training. How are you even feeling after the training? Are you feeling better? Are you feeling worse? What is your thought process? You know, focus on these little things as well. Trying to be a little bit more connected to your body, not just like bam, 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 functionality, physiology, right? Be a little bit more mindful in these things. And now, I just want to summarize everything, right? You see how I kind of structured everything. I categorized everything into like 4 big things, right? So we have the whole system, we have the functionality of your body, we have the focus areas, and lastly, we have the warm-ups and cool-downs, right? However, I don't want you to think of your training like you go to train and you have a list of these things, right? Like, okay, whole system, so I have to do upper body, lower body, okay. Functionality, rotations, okay, I'm going to do this and that. Focus areas, okay, I have to do that and that. Warm up, okay, I'm going to do this and that, right? Because all these things overlap. The whole system can be the functional movements. The functional movements can be the focus areas. And the focus areas can also be your warm-up. The warm-up can be focused on your focus areas. The focus areas can be all about longevity, and the longevity can be all about your whole system. And let me give you an example. If you go and train, right? Let's say it's my calisthenics session, right? So mainly handstands and let's say pull-ups, right? What I'm going to do in my warm-up is to definitely prep, kind of like visualize everything, my training, how am I feeling, reconnect with my body. But also I'm going to warm up the right muscles that I'm going to target in a second. So what I even like to do is to mimic certain movements that I'm going to load in a second, aka a pull-up, for example. I'm going to be pulling up my whole body, right? My body weight. So I'm just gonna stand on the floor and do this, right? Again, I'm activating certain things, I'm visualizing me pulling up, and I'm also prepping the right muscles that are going to be heavily involved later in my training under load. I'm prepping them as well, right? Now, my focus areas. Mainly my weak point is my shoulder, right? I'm overloading my shoulder. I stand on my hands a lot. So I need to like strengthen it a little bit, right? I know there's probably some instability here, so I want to focus on that. Maybe that's something I can even involve in my warm-up. Maybe I can do like banded rotations. Maybe I can do rows, whatever that is. You see how I'm connecting these things? Now, okay, my focus areas are my shoulder, right? Whatever, my upper body because I train calisthenics. Functionality. I have to do some rotational stuff, movement plays. Oh, slings. Okay, I know how it works. I understand it now. How can I do my warm-up focus areas and the functionality in one? I'm thinking, oh, the peel-off press, right? When you're pulling a band from a side and then you kind of like press it, right? So you're resisting that rotation, right? It's all about that, like resisting the unwanted movement. You teaching your body how to resist it is something that you don't wanna do, right? Okay, great. I have 3 things in one actually, right? So I'm just doing this. Great. I'm warming up. Still focusing on my shoulder stability, and I'm adding longevity on top of that. Okay, but Ania told me about the whole system. So how does it work? Okay, I'm actually focusing on the core in the peel-off press. Yes, core is involved. Upper body, yes, it is involved. Lower body, not so much. So what can I do? I either add another exercise or I do a peel-off press in the lunge. So now my legs, my hips are also being involved. And you see how I did all these 4 things in one? And obviously it's not about finding, one exercise that's going to target everything and going to serve you as all these 4 things, but it's sometimes simpler than it is. When I have more time, I'm going to break everything down, and I'm probably not going to, do your lower body on this day because I don't want to, I don't have time, or I don't want to have time for it. I'm just going to focus on my upper body. Then I don't, and I do it tomorrow or something, right? Maybe warm up. Going to take me half an hour because I have nothing else to do and I really feel like training today, right? So you're just going to go to the gym and do this and then do this and then do this, whatever, right? Then, focus areas. Like actually, I haven't trained my wrist extension in a while, right? Or I don't know, your ankle mobility. Maybe this is something that I should add. Warm up, cool down, or maybe as a separate training, right? So you see, long story short, I can't tell you, do this on Monday, do this on Tuesday, do that on Wednesday, because these things can also change. I can give you a program today, you're not gonna find it beneficial or enjoyable in a year's time, right? And let's not talk about, progress, because sometimes you actually have to be consistent with your program and stick to it and then, jump on to another thing. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes our priorities change. So I want you to be able to do that yourself without anyone else's help, right? You'd be like, oh, I am traveling for 3 months. I'm not gonna have weight. How can I adjust my training to still benefit from it, to still get closer to my goals, enjoy it along the way, not stress about it? I know exactly what I need to do. I have whole system, functionality, focus areas, and warm-ups, okay? So, I think that's it. If you remember these 4 things, and then you can go into the granular details of like, what focus areas do I focus on? What exactly do I do in my warm-up? But first, you need to understand that bigger picture.